Here we go. We're going to talk about customer centricity today. We're going to talk about your journey to customer centricity. And as Agnieszka said earlier, I worked for different multinationals and startups across the world. And my customer experience actually started in my very first job at NEC Corporation. We used to sell facial recognition and biometric software that used to enhance and improve the experience of customers, the experience of patients, citizens, employees, etc. Unfortunately, in about 2018, the European Union stopped this facial recognition softwares to be used in private sectors. So NEC basically worked on something else. But my experience started there, and then I moved on to corporate marketing for different organizations such as Bayer, Arm, and across a range of startups. And what I actually saw during my experience working as an employee, as an internal, it was that there was a really big gap between how the customer wanted to be treated and served and how the company actually treated those customers. And when we say customers, we say internal customers, so our employees, and external customers as well, so the people that buy from us. And this happens also in companies that I see and I deal with on a daily basis as an external advisor. So let's say that the business narrative is not really changed since I started working for companies many years ago. And that's because companies used to, and actually they mostly see the internal perspective rather than their external perspective. So the perspective of their customers and employees. And that's why in 2021, last year, I decided to write this book, because I needed to put my views on how customer centricity could be achieved. And it's having a lot of success around the world and is being used as a blueprint for many organizations. And it's such an honor for me to share my knowledge and to share it in writing and in speaking, as I've been doing for a few years now. So thank you for spending the next hour with me, and let's get it started. Now, let's start with the banking myth that's quite common in organizations. Organizations believe and think that by delivering a good, positive customer experience once, twice, or occasionally, like sporadically, they make them a customer-centric business. Unfortunately, it doesn't really work that way, because there are so many companies that deliver good experiences, but they are not customer-centric. And why is that? Because unfortunately, they don't have because those customer experiences are not constantly delivered in a constant basis over a long term. They don't have a culture, a customer-centric culture embedded into the overall organization. So customer centricity is delivering positive customer experiences, of course, but it's a lot more than that. So let's have a look how we can do this. Now, how can we achieve a customer-centric culture in an organization? We do it through achieving these 3 dimensions. So let's start from the first one. The first dimension is the rational dimension. So the value that comes from a product or service that we deliver. And here we have our product, our beautiful product, the qualities, the product features, the price that must compete against the competition. But unfortunately, we don't only compete on product these days, as we all know, but we compete across many different levels. And our product must be good, must last for a long time, and must fulfill the expectations, the basic expectations and needs of that customer. So let's have a look at how do we reach the second dimension. So the experiential dimension and the value that comes from the way that product or service gets delivered. And here is our lovely customer experience. Here we have things like our delivery, our packaging, our websites, our mobile app, all these things that, as we know, comprise our customer experience. And let's not forget our customer experience, our expectations of customers are basically shaped not just by the promises that we make as a business, but by the customer experiences of other businesses out there, whether they are inside our industry or outside our industry. So whatever we do, our customer expectations are basically risen by other companies as well. But unfortunately, it doesn't stop there only. We have a third dimension. So our emotional connection that the customer has with the brand. And here we have things like our purpose, our values, our beliefs. We have our empathy, our trust. How do we connect emotionally with our customers? Unfortunately, we have a lot of companies that deliver an amazing product, and we're quite good at doing that. Some companies are making their efforts in delivering good experiences, which is good, but we don't have enough companies out there that can do these three elements, these three dimensions. You know, we need to fulfill these three dimensions to be a customer-centric business. So how do we do this? Now, we also know that a customer-centric business attracts and acquires customers by earning their trust. Whether we are selling a product or service, whether we are delivering something to our customers, we are basically telling our customers to take a trust leap. Okay, so the more we deliver the product or service or customer experience or our emotional connection and interaction in a positive way, the more we earn trust with our customers. We also know that customer centricity places the need of customers ahead of functionality of product. In a product-centric world, the product is at the center of the organization, and all the efforts and strategies are made around our product. In the customer-centric world, instead, a company places all the needs and fulfill those expectations and needs and places them as at the center of the organization. We also know that a customer-centric business see the world from the customer view rather than processes and operations. And to connect to what I was saying earlier about my own experience, you mostly see companies that they only see their own internal perspective, their own objective, their own bottom line, their reducing cost, and how much money we need to make, which are vital for an organization, of course. But if we want to be a customer-centric business, and if we want to connect on an emotional level and create that loyalty and trust for a long term, we need to see the world from their own perspective. So we need to exit that I am a company bubble that places a barrier with our customers and employees. And lastly, we need to understand the longitudinal view of the customers as they go through different processes, departments, and experiences. And that's basically, it's embracing the customer-centric culture across the organization, and not just within the customer experience department or within the marketing department, but everyone within the organization needs to understand the value of the customer, what are their needs, their motivations, their expectations, etc. Now, why do we need to create that emotional connection, and why is it so important? According to the Harvard Business Review, customers that are emotionally connected are 52% more valuable than those who are just highly satisfied. And so what does this mean? When we sell products and when we focus on competing against our competition with only product features and prices, and when we create that connection of, fulfilling that basic need with customers, we create satisfied customers, okay? Because we connect only with one side of the brain, which is our rational part of the brain. But when we create that emotional connection through values, beliefs, empathy, trust, purpose, and all these soft skills that might not seem so important, we create valuable customers. So customers that buy from us more, that spend with us more, that stay with us for a longer term, whether it's a good time or a bad time, basically, in good weather or bad weather, and also that talk about us good things with other people, with their peers, their family, and this creates loyalty. Okay, this is why it's important to create that emotional connection Now, in my customer-centric framework, the framework that I share with all my clients and that you'll find in the book, I sectioned it in 3 pillars. The humanity factor, which is absolutely important. The technology factor, that again is another important factor to deliver those customer experiences. And lastly, our cultural factor. We're going to see across this presentation these 3 factors. Each pillar has their own elements. Unfortunately, we're not able to go through all of them today because we only have about 40 minutes time, but I'll go through the ones that I believe are important for the sake of this presentation. Now, the pillar of humanity embraces 3 elements such as purpose, empathy, and trust. Let's have a look. Empathy, which sounds like it's not important, but actually is walking in our customer's shoes. And it enables us to have that customer perspective taken. And again, we need to shift from our internal perspective to our external perspective to see what happens in their worlds. How do we do this? And how can we be more empathetic with our customers? And this is basically through understanding their pain points, their motivation, their needs, their wants, their desires. If we're not empathetic with our customers, we're not able to create that those customer experiences, those products as well, because products as well are important, as we said. So we need to train that empathy muscle with across the organization and with everybody, so that we can actually deliver those experiences that our customers expect from us. Now, trust. As we said, companies attract and acquire new customers by earning their trust. If money is the currency of transactions, as it is in the product-centric world, trust is a currency of interaction, as it is in a customer-centric world. How do we earn it? And trust is really, really important topic to talk about, and it's probably a topic to share in another presentation. But for the purpose of this talk, I'm going to talk about purpose, which is really, really important these days, especially when 62% of us around the world believe that companies have no ambition beyond wanting to maximize profit. And 70% of us agree that businesses focus only on their own agenda rather than considering the wider society. So why it's important to create that why, basically, that purpose that goes beyond maximizing profit. As we know, we need our businesses to make money, otherwise we are not a business. We are a non-profit association or organization. But if we only focus on maximizing profit, it becomes detrimental for our relationship, internal relationship and external relationship with customers. And also, I see a lot of companies that their only purpose is that of making money and selling as many products as possible to as many customers as possible in order to create as much money as possible. And that's all right. But the problem with that is that it happens at the expense of everybody and everything. When I say everybody, is we don't treat employees and customers the way they want to be treated, as we don't listen to their needs. We're not there to fulfill their expectations and needs. And when I say everything, we do it at the expense of the society, our community, and the world, the planet, basically. So why are we in business, basically? Now, I'm going to share a really interesting case study from Illy Cafe. And Illy Cafe is one of the most successful organizations around the world in terms of revenue, market share in the coffee business, but also in terms of their why and their purpose. So Illy Cafe has their business model created as the foundation is they have create a business model on creating share value. Creating share value is a really important and something that I have close to my heart. It's a strategy that's popularized by the other business review professors such as Michael Porter and Mark Kramer. And basically they say that you can create social value while also creating new business opportunities, strengthening competitive positioning, and therefore increasing revenue. So basically they say we can do both be a sustainable and socially responsible business, but also making money. So how do they do this? They have, obviously, in order to make a great product and make a great coffee, they employ thousands of coffee growers around the world. They give them good financial rewards, and they train them and they take care of them because they believe that they are a resource. And this is not an obvious thing, because we know that across the world, there are a lot of companies that they exploit their growers, their suppliers, and the people that work for them. So they take care of them, they give them the means to actually live comfortably in the society that they operate. Second, they are fully sustainable. They recycle 99% of the energy that they use, and all the water that they use across the plants is reused across the company, and they use the solar panels as well, so they are 99% sustainable, a sustainable company. Another thing is that they work on enriching their main product, which is coffee, by using, of course, healthy products, and for creating a healthier product, not just for the sake of selling that product, but also for creating a product that is healthier for customers and for society, basically. They do this by making a lot of research and not competing with their competitors, but also cooperating in making a better product for the ecosystem. Lastly, they create communities. So how do they do this? They do this through their foundation and creating digital communities, and they do by lifting as many poor people as possible from poor countries, and from lifting child labor as much as possible as they can from poor countries. They do this through education and by creating organizations and associations that can actually give them education and the means to study. So this is basically what is their purpose. The purpose is not just to sell coffee and coffee machines, but it's also to be a socially responsible business. Now, the second pillar that I would like to talk about is technology, and basically how do we deliver good customer experiences across the organization. In this pillar, I wanted to basically have the balance between the human factor and the technology. Let's not forget that customers these days, they want to interact with people and not just with screens or mobile apps. And unfortunately, with digital transformation that is becoming very ingrained in our companies, we are mostly thinking about getting the latest piece of technology out there without even thinking or automating processes as much as possible. But we don't think much about the human factor, that emotional factor that we need to create, that we must create. So in this pillar, I talked about data, ease of use, and innovation. So in order to understand our customers on a deeper level, we need to collect and analyze data, which is vital. But we need to be able to unify and make it instantly accessible to everyone within the organization because everyone needs to understand who's that customer, and they need to have that 360 degrees view of that customer in order to serve them better, right? So second element I talk about is ease of use. So how easy and frictionless is for your customers to use your product or service and to interact with your company. We're not only talking about selling products, as we know, or services, but we also talk about the interaction that they have with your company. The minute that your customer lands on your website or on your mobile app is because they have an unmet need, whether it's finding information, whether it's buying that product, or whether it's just interacting with you to see what you are about. So we need to be able to fulfill those those expectations and needs as soon as possible without frictions. And now for this presentation, I'm going to talk about innovation and basically how do we create customer-centric innovation in our organizations. I'm going to talk about Enel. Enel is an energy provider, and they are very present in many countries around the world. What they did, they basically they moved from the original and from the R&D, from the typical R&D department when creating new products and services to a customer-centric co-creation with customers. So customer-centric co-creation basically involves the customers to co-create the customer experiences, products, or services. And why it's important? Because we use that empathy that we talked about earlier to understand them better, to understand their emotions, to understand their pain points, to understand their motivation, their needs, their expectations, etc. We engage with them and we earn trust, of course, and we make them insiders. These days, customers don't only want to buy products and services from us, but they want to actually be part of our strategies. They want to be part of the creation of the products that they actually use. So how did they do? As I said, they moved from the R&D department to a co-creation strategy. So juiceability is a smart dedicated cable that allows people with disability to charge their wheelchair battery. And basically the company gathered a number of customers, of disabled customers in the co-creation process, and they make sure that they co-created together across different gathering and workshops together. So, and these were things like how long does a cable need to be, and how does the handle need to be, and then they worked also on the mobile app, because these customers needed a mobile app to understand where the stations, where the charging stations were across the country. So they used empathy and simplicity as a foundation of the project. And again, we have simplicity, so the ease of use, and making sure that all the frictions were removed from that product and the experience, but also from the map, from the digital map. And they used the empathy. So again, understanding, walking in that customer's shoes to understand what are their needs and expectations of that particular customer. Now let's talk about culture, which is a really important pillar that embraces a customer-centric transformation. Now, in here, I talk about our people, the leadership, and the bottom line. So for the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to talk about the people. But let's quickly say that culture in an organization is the way we do things around here. So the sum of values and beliefs that shape employees' behavior at all levels. And why do we need that culture, that customer-centric culture? We need that because our employees, they need to be motivated and engaged. But unfortunately, as many of you know, only 22% of employees around the world are engaged with their companies. And the way we can engage with companies is in these 4 ways. Purpose is the first one. So we go back at the beginning of the presentation. Why we work determines how well we work. And this is because why it's important. We don't really get up in the morning wanting to maximize profit, right? We get up in the morning because those values of that company that want to serve better the customer, they align with my values. So we need a strong purpose in order to connect and engage with our employees. And we all know that employee experience and customer experience are intrinsically connected. We also need relatedness, so our sense of belonging and connectedness to others. Is this a family to me? How do I feel by working for this company and with these people? Am I motivated to work for this company? Am I inspired to work in this company. Then we need autonomy. So our desire to feel free as opposed to be controlled when making decisions. And we will talk about in a little bit what it means in customer centricity. We also need competence. So our sense of being capable and our desire to learn new things. Why competence? First of all, we need to keep growing as a person, but in a customer-centric world, we need to understand what is the value of our customer and why and how our little world, so our role, improves the life of those customers and make those customers better. So how do we do this? We do this by training our employees all the time. And why do we need to train them also? In our customer-centric transformation, in that transformation from product-centric to customer-centric, we need to share our milestones with our people to motivate them that we are doing a great job in serving customers. But we need to communicate these things. And most of the time, these things don't happen so often, right? So I'm going to present KLM. So how did they do in order to motivate and engage with employees? So KLM is a Royal Dutch Airlines. They are fantastic. In 2015, they did a fantastic transformation from product-centric to customer-centric, and by involving the people inside the organization. So usually what happens, the people, the leaders, when we have to do a transformation of this kind, the leaders take the decisions. But here the leaders, they actually gather all employees together and they asked all employees what were the values that they wanted to work towards. And in that way, they shaped a customer-centric culture. So as you can see, this is their compass, they call it, yeah, the compass. And their purpose is to create memorable customer experiences. Their ambition is to be customer-centric, sustainable, and efficient. And they do this with their staff engagement. So creating an engagement with their employees. In fact, their employees, as the values, they wanted to create desired customer experiences. They wanted to have optimal staff behavior, optimal working climate, and optimal leadership. These were the values that those employees said, and they became the foundation of their customer-centric culture. And as the bottom, they have this lovely line that says, we care about our customers, our people, and our planet. So that's KLM for you. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to go through in details through it. But now, as I was saying, in pyramidal organizations and in our business worlds, we make a lot of processes and a lot of rules and things that become a barrier that stop our people to be themselves and create that emotional connection with our customers in between employees. And that's because in pyramid-like organizations, the leadership, so the top, does the thinking, that takes the goal and create politics without really understanding what are the problems or whether are customer problems or internal problems. And in that way, our employees and frontliners execute tasks like robots without really understanding the why behind those strategies that are set at the top. What we need to create instead is a communication between our employees and leaders, because those employees are the ones that have the best solution for our customers, are the ones that deal with customers every day, and are the ones that they can create the best customer initiatives. So the top must understand what happens at the bottom for the strategy to work. And the bottom must understand the decisions at the top before serving the customer. So there must be this communication, top to bottom and bottom up. But unfortunately, at the moment, across most of organizations around the world, that information gets stuck in the middle and it doesn't really share across the organization. So in order to do this, customer-centric leadership, which is absolutely crucial in sharing that culture, that customer-centric culture across, they need to be the first ambassadors of this culture. They need to be the ones that believe that this is not only a project that lasts a year, 2 years, but it is actually a transformation, is a mindset shift, and they are the ones that share it across the business. So customer-centric leadership also means decentralizing the authority to give more autonomy to those employees to execute freely for customers, which speeds up the decision-making process. In our world, we have a lot of layers of approvals. You know, in pyramid-like organizations, we have a lot of layers of approvals, and that are basically felt across our customer experiences. If we give more autonomy, as we were saying earlier, to our employees to take the best decisions, you know, to be more customer-centric themselves, we are basically giving more power to create those customer experiences better. And there's a lot I would like to say about leadership, but in the ideal customer-centric worlds, customers have more meaningful relationship with companies, employees benefit from making customers' lives better, leaders manage healthier organizations, and society enjoys increasing growth and sustainable value through our values, of course. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. And if you'd like to know more about how to create a customer-centric culture and the switch between product-centric to customer-centric, Journey to Centricity can help you. I would like to welcome all of your questions, and thank you so much again for listening to me.
Thank you so much. It was really, really nice and insightful and very nicely structured. So please, everyone, you can put your questions in the chat, and maybe we can also stop sharing the screen so we have everyone's faces. So to kick off, I have a couple of questions already in the bag, and I can't wait to ask them. So
of course,
so I will just go with it. I'll just kick off, but please don't hesitate to put your questions down. Or unmute or raise your hand and unmute and ask also, of course, in voice. So one of the questions was that when I was reading your book, I was thinking about you and then how personal you are in your book. And then I was thinking, like, what was the most surprising comment or response you have received after you published your book?
Okay. What kind of comments? Well, so far I've only got really good feedback, thankfully, but I'm sure.
No, it's more like, was there some like unexpected outcomes or something that was like, okay, I didn't expect that to come out of this work?
So, well, I think, you know, I was very afraid of publishing this book because I didn't know what people would think about it, if they would, how they would receive it. Because I merged, as you know, I merged basically customer centricity with what is a stakeholder company, and becoming a better business, you know, with values and beliefs. And I didn't quite know how the reader would perceive it, but the feedback are fantastic, and the book is now used as a blueprint in many organizations. And the framework that I've created is followed by many companies, and I'm basically teaching them and training companies to apply them in their daily lives. So, I mean, for me, it's this is a comment itself.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's amazing. And well, I can also understand why that happened. So, so you talk about value for stakeholders, where it's important to understand the whole ecosystem of them, right? So when you say word stakeholders, it's not only like, I think, traditional understanding of, oh, this is my boss, this is my customer, this is my employee, but even going beyond that, including, let's say, society, community, and planet. So what would be your advice on how to go about it to actually defining your stakeholder ecosystem?
So stakeholders ecosystem is basically, when I was talking about Illy Cafe, the stakeholder ecosystem is customers, employees, And also they are the growers, people picking in the coffee across the world, and they have coffee facilities in Brazil, they have them in Africa, they have them in Colombia, everywhere around the world. So, and also the communities. So when I said that they take care of the growers, because they actually do take care of the growers with trainings, with financial rewards, and they make sure that those people are treated fairly, you know, in those developing countries, and that they can have the means to have a better house, a better education, and etc. And when I talk about the communities around the world, what they did, they basically construct associations and platforms and education for everyone to study. So they give the means to people who need to study. They obviously, what they can teach coffee growing, they can teach coffee making, but what they do in there, they're giving education, and they are also increasing the knowledge of coffee making. So they're doing both, you know. And for customers, the good way they do this is by providing a healthier product, rather than providing a product that has pesticides, for example, or it's not grown in an healthier and sustainable way. They do this by providing a better product for the customer and for the world. So, I mean, the stakeholder ecosystem is huge. And that's the example of Ili, but any sector and any company has their own stakeholder ecosystem that they need to take care of. And the more we take care of our stakeholders, the more our stakeholders will take care of us.
Okay, that's a strong statement to close the question. So we have Shiva asking question, as a young CX consultant working with startups and small organizations who don't have the resource to employ, for example, I believe you mean Chief Customer Officer. What strategies can be used to continually foster CX outside of the workshops they do with me? And embedding a culture isn't obtained in a workshop.
So if I understand correctly, we're talking about budget here, isn't it?
No, Shiva is nodding.
We're talking about budget, yeah? So what I believe is, so many companies complicate customer experience quite a lot by saying we don't have budget, or it's too complicated, it takes too much time, it takes too many stakeholders to involve in this transformation. Why don't we just start instead from the very basic of improving our customer experience? Instead of complicating too much with the latest technology or the latest, or maybe, you know, making superior customer experiences, which, for example, can cost quite a lot. But our job today is to improve the actual experience that our customers have. To the basics. Go back to the drawing boards, how map out your customer journey and trying to understand what are the frictions. What are our customers? Do you know what? So many companies, and even big companies, I'm not talking about startups here, they don't have a customer persona. They don't have a buyer personas. They've never done a mapping, like an empathy map to understand what are the motivations and needs of those customers. And that's why they'll never be able to understand and to improve their customer experiences. So start from the basic and then scale up to improving and delivering better and better customer experiences. But budget, to me, is an excuse.
Shiva, do you want to ask additional question? Did it help?
Hi everyone, right? And first thing first, I want to start off with apologizing, right? Please pardon me for looking like a hot mess today. I do have the flu and I am at home, right? So this is Shiva with a fever, right?
Oh, hi, Shiva.
Hi, right. So my question is really based around, okay, so I'm a young CX consultant, nowhere as close to being the professionals that you all are, right? But I'm aspiring, so I'm going to get there, yeah? So I do work with a lot of startup companies, right? Now, these companies, of course, their major hurdle would be budget. So they can't afford a chief experience officer or a chief customer person or whatnot. Yeah. So what they do is that they would be, of course, the number one thing we would be doing with them is workshops, right? Put stuff in place for them. Let's do your journey mapping. Let's do your product ideation, right? Stakeholder ecosystem mapping is actually something that we do, yeah? But when we leave these workshops and we leave them with all of these bits and pieces of knowledge, right? Yes, it's useful for a couple of weeks or whatnot, but then from then on, they start losing it, because remember that they're now trying to work in favor of investors, British Business Bank, you know, they have all of these things at play that they're taking into consideration, and not so much the customer, again, because they don't have that customer person on board there with them as part of their board, as part of them being there every day, right? So what could we as young consultants do to better foster culture of customer centricity? And that was really, you know, the key question. What do you think we could do to foster a bit more centricity as independent consultants?
Okay, so got you now, sorry. So I believe it's always a mindset change. If your people inside the organization, whether it's a startup, actually, you know, a startup has a better chance because they are starting and they don't have so many legacies and so many departments to change, you know. But as you are a startup, your main job right now is to change the mindset, and it's easier, as I said. So, excuse me. What you can do, how to change the mindset? First of all, they have to be prone to change the mindset and to think more like their customers instead of selling the next product. And second, you can do this through constant training. So the way you do this is by constantly reminding them what is the value of your customers. You need to have that financial reward in mind to tell them that a customer that is more loyal is a customer that buys more. So why product-centric is actually is the business narrative in most of organizations these days, because it's short-term, okay? Because those ROIs are basically there immediately, rather than in a customer-centric world. We take care of people, we do all these customer-centric initiatives, and then we see that ROI in the long term, though, okay? And that's the problem. So it's a business narrative that works upside down. So your job is to actually show them that your ROI, although it's coming later on in the transformation, is actually going to be more, because your customers are going to be more trustful, are going to be more loyal, are going to be there for the long term. And I know it's going to be hard, really, really hard, but actually you have a better chance because you are a smaller business and you don't have to change a lot of legacy processes that have been there in the legacy big businesses. You know, this is my job, this is what I do. And believe me, it's hard enough. And so I feel your pain.
I have actually one kind of almost like a follow-up or build-up question on this topic. So you were talking in your book about serving humans versus machines, right? So it was yeah, and you and that was really to have that long-term vision versus short-term, right? And I wanted to share an example about Zalon, which is a personal shopping offering by Zalando. And Zalando is a large, basically online shopping platform. Probably you're quite familiar with it.
Yes.
And they had this service called Zalon, and it was a great one. So it was basically a stylist would help you to choose based on your questionnaire, your products, and then you would get actually plastic free box with the clothes and et cetera, et cetera. And so, however, it was a great service. They did close it, but most likely I was trying to look for real reasons, but it was mainly because the idea is that they will integrate this personal shopping experience into their web services and web product. But I do believe that it's mainly, like in general terms speaking, it was quite costly and potentially did not bring the outcomes that Zalando potentially hoped for. So, so my question was like, that it's not only them, and Zalando is quite large organization, quite successful, but there are many organizations struggle to this with this type of dilemma, even if they want to do customer services and really expand their experiential offering, that when it's quite expensive sometimes, and it also can be that it doesn't bring the right commercial results, even in a longer run. For example, Zalando, I think, ran for 4 years or something like that. So how to even balance on that, and what is your take on this?
So I'm sorry, I missed why did they actually failed? I missed that.
So I was trying to figure it out, but I do believe that it didn't bring the right outcomes. I think that it's because the people who used Zalondo's service actually didn't buy more from Zalando website. I don't think they also gained too much of a loyalty from it as well, or any other kind of benefit that Zalando was measuring it against. But I don't know exact answer. It's more like observer's case rather than insider's case.
Okay, I don't know the company. I mean, I sort of know Zalando. I never used them, but I don't know the other service. I think it might be because they were too concentrated on the service rather than understanding the needs of customers and the expectations, like digital expectations, product expectations, but also emotional expectations, as we said. It might be that. I always believe that we need a balance. The more we digitize and we automate, the less personal brand will become. So we need a balance there between our human factor, our automation and digital way of doing business, which needs to be, of course, frictionless, and needs to be great, and needs to be personalized, and needs to be functional 100%. But we also need the human factor. Sometimes I come across companies that their contact center is disappeared after COVID. You don't get to speak to people, for example. So it really, I don't know what happened to that company. I don't know, but sometimes I believe that these hyper digitized companies, they miss the boat in other things, such as the personal. How do you interact personally with a customer? You want to talk to a customer service, for example, and you have the option of a bot, you have the option of emails, of a chat, but you don't have the option of a person. And that's struggle. That's a struggle. We need to create those touch points, but not only digitally. Like, personal experiences are also extremely important, especially after COVID, when we have been confined for so long.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And I think that you're probably right in fully understanding the customer needs in Zalando's case. So maybe actually customers didn't expect that from online, let's say, clothing and brand, that they're going to do such a personal experience. And maybe it felt almost like out of touch, maybe, or anything like that. But we have a question also from Renana, and she asks, do you think customers always know what they need, and can it sometimes be a blocker for innovation?
Customers don't actually know what they need. They almost never know what they need, but they land on your website because they are looking for something, whether it's an information, whether it's just looking around, and it's your job to capture them, whether it's a potential customer or an existing customer, Sometimes we go in stores and we're just there browsing around, and it's the same exact thing in websites. It's our job to deliver a good experience through our people or through our website or mobile app, but they don't always know what they want. In terms of surveys and asking them things, Sometimes they will tell you, sometimes they won't tell you. Actually, most of the time they won't tell you. That's why I don't believe so much in surveys, in customer surveys, because it's just, you know, that's how we are. We don't have the courage a lot of telling the truth. It's quite challenging, you know. Our job as companies is to lower our barriers, to actually create that. If we send only a survey, for example, that's another barrier. There's a screen in between. But our job is to create that emotional that emotional connection with them. And the more we do that through our empathy, through trust, through be personal, with values and beliefs, the more we connect with them on an emotional level, the more we lower those barriers. That's what I believe.
Well, it's a great way to kind of close off, I think. Thank you so much, Ilenia. I really, really appreciate you coming over, talking to us and sharing your insights and sharing your journey with the book. I want to invite everyone, of course, to connect with you, I think, on LinkedIn.
Please, yes.
You're open for it. I saw your LinkedIn kind of icon on your slides, so I just take a liberty and say that. So thanks, everyone. And thanks, Ilenia.